Two men nearly brought the U.S. financial system to its knees when they tried to buy all its gold. So how did their greed backfire? Just imagine waking up one morning to find that all the value of $1 in the United States, all trading, and all ounces of gold were controlled through a secret plot between two men in New York. Well, this is exactly how history remembers September 24th, 1869, as Black Friday. After the Civil War, the U.S. economy was unstable because the government had printed massive amounts of paper money, as known as the greenbacks, to finance the war. Unlike gold-backed currency, these greenbacks weren't tied to any physical reserve. They were essentially promises of value. This caused inflation, making the dollar cheap. Gold at that time was seen as real money, stable, trustworthy, and global. Many investors and politicians believed that returning to a gold-backed system would restore confidence and stabilize the economy. But because there was too much paper money in circulation and too little gold, the relationship between gold and the dollar became a high-stakes balancing act. The Treasury was holding huge reserves of gold, and it had the power to flood or restrict the gold supply, which could either strengthen or weaken the dollar. This created a perfect opportunity for manipulation, and in this unstable atmosphere, that two of the United States' most ambitious financial players emerged, Jay Gould and James Fisk. However, Gould and Fisk had no intention of merely amassing a fortune. Their ambition had a much more profound significance: to dominate financial markets. And the strategy tactician Gould and the publicity hog Fisk believed they could corner the market in gold. The duo had a plan to purchase as much gold as possible and then drive the market to phenomenal heights. However, to ensure that this goal is realized, they had to ensure that the United States government did not sell its holdings of gold. To accomplish this, their strategy mixed audacity and bribery to manipulate the gold market. Gould and Fisk made friends with a man named Abel Corbin, who just happened to have a connection to a big figure. Abel's wife was related to President Ulysses S. Grant. In this way, the duo had direct access to the White House. Also, they made sure that a supporter named Daniel Butterfield got a position as assistant treasurer in New York. He had direct oversight over sales of gold. Then a purely personal project became connected to national politics. Gould and Fisk's strategy was to suppress the government's selling of gold under the pretext of supporting farmers' exports and create a misleading sense of stability in the market. All through the summer, they quietly bought up gold, driving the price higher each week. Newspapers hinted at a coming boom. Whispers of fortune spread through every tavern and trading room. Wall Street turned electric overnight, and everyone wanted in, fearing they'd miss a new gold rush. Their operation, later called the Gold Ring, pulled in brokers, politicians, and bankers, all feeding the illusion of a booming market. However, this illusion of stability couldn't last forever. To keep gold prices high, Gould and Fisk needed the market to believe everything was under control, even as they secretly pulled the strings. But rumors began to reach President Grant. People were whispering that the so-called stability plan was less about helping the country and more about helping a few powerful men. Realizing the deception, Grant struck back. On the morning of September 24, 1869, the U.S. Treasury unexpectedly released $4 million worth of gold into the market. After the government gold release, gold prices plummeted from $162 to $135 within hours. In a single move, he shattered the scheme, but also the price of gold collapsed within hours. The crisis led to the shuttering of several brokerage firms and significant losses in the stock market, causing losses estimated at nearly $100 million. Many investors who had borrowed money to buy gold faced ruin as prices collapsed. The scandal damaged the reputation of President Grant and raised questions about his administration's integrity, and people watched in horror as their life savings vanished. In this chaos, Jay Gould quietly slipped away, selling his holdings at the peak, right before the crash. He'd seen it coming. Gould's instinct for survival was as sharp as his greed. James Fisk, on the other hand, wasn't so lucky. He was caught mid-collapse, unable to liquidate his gold in time. Yet neither man faced real justice. Investigations were launched, yes, but their connections ran deeper than the justice. Fisk flaunted his wealth in New York's high society, while Gould went on to become one of the most powerful railroad tycoons in America. The wreckage was left for ordinary people to bear as the architects of the crisis walked away untouched. The Black Friday event is more than just a financial history scandal. The reality of this financial debacle is that it uncovered weaknesses that are endemic to the financial industry. So, why did it happen, and why does it keep happening? Because markets are not made of numbers, they're made of people, and people, when faced with profit or fear of missing the opportunity, often stumble on the same stones: greed, arrogance, and the illusion of control. The tragedy of 1869 was not just in lost fortunes, it was in lost restraint. Jay Gould and James Fisk didn't break the market with gold, they broke it with human nature itself. The rush for gold was, in truth, the rush of ego, of wanting to outsmart the system and own what no one should ever own: the power. Look around today. Markets still shiver at whispers, and entire fortunes rise or fall in the span of a tweet. Some modern assets, like cryptocurrencies, dance not to the rhythm of real value, but to the pulse of speculation and viral sentiment. The faces have changed, but the fever hasn't. The same whispers of public interest, economic stability, or market freedom are still used to justify manipulation. Populist rhetoric, then and now, often hides ambition behind the mask of virtue. But history reminds us, when greed dresses itself as morality, disaster is never far behind. So, what do we take from all this? We cannot erase greed, but we can weaken its hold through fair rules, open communication, and the courage to question easy promises, with transparency, common sense, and awareness instead of complacency. Black Friday, 1869 wasn't just a story of gold, it was a mirror held up to our collective nature. And if there's one thing the market teaches us over and over again, it's this: forgetfulness is more expensive than any crash, because when memory fades, manipulation returns. And when lessons are ignored, history doesn't repeat, it retaliates. So as you walk away from this story, ask yourself, are we still chasing the same gold, just under different names? If you believe history still has warnings worth listening to, then stay curious and subscribe, because the next crisis always begins with a story just like this one.